Yes, I'm doing it right now. Give me
Looks like
one.
it's being live streamed.
Yeah. Can you just confirm, Julie?
We're on Facebook Live. Hi, everyone. We'll get started with the program in just a few seconds.
All right, let's let folks in and then we'll get started in a minute.
Good morning, everyone. I could say good morning. It's still 11:59 on my clock, at least. Thank you for joining us here on Zoom. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much for participating. We'll get started in just a few minutes. This is our Women's History panel, Women's History Month panel. We're going to be discussing opportunities for women in the trades. I see everybody's rolling in on Zoom. We've got a good crowd here. Beverly Sanders, good to see ya. I see Executive Director Brian Perkovich. Well, his audio is trying to connect. If you're joining us on Facebook, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. We're allowing for all of our Zoom participants to register and roll in. This is our Women's History Month panel discussion on women in the trades. Who else is here with us? All right. Well, thank you for joining us so much on Facebook or on Zoom. This is our Women's History Month panel, and we will be discussing the role of women in the trades. Today is really an important day as well. It's World Water Day, and we women have a role to play in that. There are a lot of opportunities when it comes to career opportunities, specifically when it comes to waterworks. So we want to make sure that there's women representation in the infrastructure sector. My name is Eira Sepúlveda, and I'm Commissioner for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. We know that the federal government is sending us $17 billion in infrastructure funding, and it's my pleasure and Commissioner Kim Neely de Buclet's co-host this event.
Thank you, Commissioner. As my colleague said, my name is Kim de Buclet, and I am honored and thrilled to be here co-hosting this with Commissioner Corral Sepúlveda, along with our panelists. So I believe at this time, it's time for me to introduce two of the panelists. Our first panelist is Chynna Hampton. Chynna Hampton is no stranger to workforce development. She currently serves as Equity Director for Climate Jobs Illinois, an initiative through the Chicago Federation of Labor and the American Federation of Labor, where she works to ensure historically underrepresented individuals are represented through green energy legislation. Prior to her role as Equity Director, Chynna served as the Director of Workforce Development at Hire 360, an organization focused on ensuring that historically underrepresented individuals have access and opportunities in the construction industry. Through her role, Chynna is working to strengthen partnerships for Hire 360 and to develop two sister organizations in Central and Southern Illinois. So Chynna, if you could just give us a wave so we can all see who you are. And then I think I'm going to toss it back to my colleague, Commissioner Corral Sepúlveda, and she's going to introduce one of the other panelists.
So I'm going to introduce Blanca Berthier. She's the Managing Director at Women's Business Development Center. Previously, Blanca worked as a diplomat for the Mexican government. She's in implementing export strategies for clients in the US and Mexico. Blanca was the executive director for the US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce for over 9 years and has been a professional in international business for over 20 years. She joined the Women Business Development Center to continue to serve her clients and offer resources for their growth and development. Welcome, Blanca.
And finally, I have another panelist to introduce, Renee Jones. Give a wave, Renee. Where's Renee? There she is. Renee Jones is currently the program director at Chicago Women in Trades, otherwise known as CWIT. Renee was born and raised on Chicago's West Side. Renee has a passion for being an advocate and providing service. It was her experience with the Habitat for Humanity's organization that led her to a career in construction. Through a three pre-apprenticeship program, Renee worked as a conductor, which eventually led to becoming a journeywoman electrician. After 16 years on the job, Renee came full circle by combining her industry and her social service experience to work in the interest of women participating in whatever career chosen in the construction and or manufacturing industry on behalf of Chicago Women in Trades. She is a proud mother of 2 sons and loves doing work that uplifts lives. So thank you for being with us, Renee. And thank you, Chynna, and the other panelists.
Thank you guys for being here. And before Commissioner Buclet kicks us off with the first question, want to speak again to that $17 billion in infrastructure funding that we are getting from the federal government. So are we ready to make the most of it? We better be. Historically, women and especially women of color have faced workforce disparities. For every dollar a man makes, Black women only earn 64 cents and Latina women only earn 57 cents. And the COVID pandemic has only made this disparity deeper. These historic inequities precede all of us, but this is our moment. This is our moment to make it right. The infrastructure decisions that we make today will have a reverberating effect on communities for decades to come. We have to be strategic, we have to be intentional, equitable. We can increase prosperity and provide life-changing opportunities. Now is the time to build a new economy by breaking glass ceilings for Illinois women, community of color, and people who have historically been underrepresented in the trades. That's why Commissioner Buclet and I are partnering with this Women Histories Month event, and we're collaborating with these women-led organizations, and we're excited that you will help us in really addressing these barriers, ensuring that equal access to jobs in the infrastructure sector are accessible to all women across Illinois. So Commissioner Buclet, let's kick it off with the first question.
Right, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. So the first question actually relates back to your opening statement about the $17 billion in federal infrastructure funding. What impact, you panelists, do you think this stimulus will have on our communities, particularly Black and Brown communities? And I'm going to start with Chynna, and then maybe Renee, and then Eira, you can ask the other panelists.
Great. So thank you again to both the commissioners for just kind of setting the tone and giving us an audience to talk about these things. So I think that with the $17 billion in federal infrastructure funding coming this way, it's going to create a huge impact. It's going to be a huge impact for us to get individuals from Black and Brown communities into the workforce development space. That can be workforce development in the construction industry, in the climate energy industry. We want to ensure through our respective training programs that individuals are trained and scaled up so that when this funding does make its way, they are ready to be put right into these workforce opportunities. And that is what we pride ourselves with in Hire 360. We work with individuals to ensure that as this money is coming down the pipeline, that they have those career readiness skills that are necessary. We ensure that they don't have any barriers. So through our barrier reduction fund and assisting individuals with the barrier reduction fund, whether it be through paying for application fees for these unions that are going to be coming online for this work, paying for tools, paying for transportation costs to get to and from a job. We want to ensure that as we know that this work is about to be happening, that we set the tone and we work with other organizations like those that are here and present to ensure that individuals are ready to get put into those jobs, and not just jobs, but to have career opportunities in these industries. Jobs are fine, but to have a career is something that you can then pass down to your children or your children's children so they can see what that is.
Thank you, Renee. And then Blanca, if you don't mind chiming in.
Sure, and yes, to what my colleague just said, I think, the impact could be huge, not only in terms of job creation, but also training. I think in this industry, right, the trades, training is key. So we need to collaborate as organizations to train the workforce. And then eventually, and speaking from my organizational perspective, the road to entrepreneurship, right? So I see a lot of opportunities for people in this industry that are trained, that can create jobs, but eventually start their businesses. And this is where we can come in, providing resources to women and providing resources to minorities, Black and Brown, who, by the way, is the most of the population that we work with is, are minorities and women, of course. So the power of entrepreneurship is going to be huge, with these opportunities that can be created. So again, providing the resources and the training and collaborating with the colleagues on this meeting will be key to empower the women in the trades.
And thank you very much, Blanca and Chynna. And Renee, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, please. $17 billion in federal infrastructure funding, it does present an opportunity to significantly grow the number of women in the trades. But this will only happen if there are universal and effective equity measures, specifically designed to increase diversity and inclusion. This stimulation could be impactful and transformative, but it matters how it is spent. If it includes in the funding that states are required to spend a portion of the infrastructure funding, workforce development, programming, and other supportive services, and anti-harassment training, it can be impactful in the expansion of women in apprenticeship, other pre-apprenticeship programs, and non-traditional occupational jobs. It will provide an excellent opportunity for people in disadvantaged communities, the opportunities to earn decent wages. That could really be trajectory changes that can be impactful for generations. But it matters how it's spent, and it's important that it is funneled into the areas of training and informing women of these opportunities. And we've been doing that since 1987. We've been established since 1981, and Chicago Women in Trades has done an excellent job of promoting that, but these funds will help us even further that.
Great. Now I'm going to toss it back to my colleague, Commissioner Corral, because I believe you have a second question for our panelists.
Yes, and I want to know, I love what you just said, Renee, about equity measures. Measure. We have to make sure that when we're talking about policies that impact equity, that we're talking about measuring what our goals are so that we can, one, identify our success and continue to identify ongoing gaps and how we can close those gaps. It's only when you can set a measured pathway of what your goals are that you can really start to even begin to celebrate your successes and closing those gaps. And speaking of gaps, my question is, what gaps do you see for women accessing careers in the trades, and how have you been able to work with them in addressing these gaps? I'm gonna throw that to you, Renee, because I last week attended the breakfast that you all had, or I'm sorry, it was a luncheon that you all had, and I met some very dynamic women that were super pumped about being a part of a carpentry program. So please speak to that program and anything else that you see as gaps and how you've worked with women to address them.
Okay, we have a partnership with the Carpenters Union, in which we have an all-women's pre-apprenticeship program, which is going on now. It's currently in its second week. And it's been really successful because we have gathered women that have been on the waiting list to get into those programs. But as far as gaps go, the first gap, with the opportunities are not often known, and it's not often presented to women. And we need to start educating them early in high school, in 7th, 8th grade, that these careers exist, because they are women and young girls are exploring what do they want to be in life. But once we get them in there, it's important that we fund to remove the barriers that exist that may not make them so successful in pursuing this career. Everything from transportation, application fees, and childcare. Last year, we spent almost $100,000 just on participants, so we can also remove those barriers. So it's important that when we meet them, they're coming, if they're interested in program, we first ask them about what is going on in your life that may not make you successful in the program. And we do what we can to make sure we remove those barriers so they can successfully attend that all-women carpenters class, attend our Women Build Illinois class, have their child care and services so they can be successful. So I think those gaps are something we need to identify. And the first being letting people know these programs exist, and also recruiting them and finding out what's happening in their lives that's going to prevent them from making this career choice successful.
Mm-hmm. Chynna, I know Hire 360 has also played a great role in the last couple of years. Now, this is a newer program. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys do to identify these gaps. What gaps have you seen, and how do you address closing the gap?
So, I think Renee summed it up with Chicago Women in Trades. And so our goal and how we work at Hire 360 is we work with organizations like Chicago Women in Trades. Currently, we are working we are part of the We Can Build a Consortium, which is a partnership for the Obama Presidential Center, where we're working with additional partners like Chicago Women in Trades, Revolution Workshops, St. Paul Community Development Ministries. But we're working with them to address those gaps and barriers as it concerns women in this industry. We know that we as one organization may not have all of the answers, but it's our collaborative effort with our sister and brother organizations to ensure that we identify the gaps. And as I mentioned earlier, one way that we work with our organizations, because the organizations that we're working with, one that we can build a collaborative, take advantage is our barrier reduction fund. So we work with organizations like CWIT, like Rev Workshop, like St. Paul Community Development Ministries, to ensure that as individuals are coming through their doors and requesting assistance or training that they're working with them on, they can also tap into the barrier reduction fund. That fund is, again, used to cover transportation costs, used to cover application fees, used to assist individuals with housing support. It's also used to ensure that, if they need equipment, we had someone that needed a computer for a class, used to assist them with any type of equipment that they need. All of our sister organizations that are partnering with us can have individuals tap into that fund, therefore alleviating any barriers that these individuals may have getting into this industry.
Mm-hmm. Blanca, now from your perspective, and Chynna, you just mentioned partnerships. Renee, you mentioned that as well. Chynna, you spoke a little bit more about the partnerships that you have on-site construction opportunities. So there's definitely a lot for entrepreneurs and the business community to play a role. Blanca, how do you work with business owners, women business owners specifically, but also others that are trying to open these opportunities for women? How can entrepreneurs and business owners play a role in closing these gaps?
Yes, so we don't close the door to anyone. So although we are the Women Business Development Center, we also have male clients. We work with all types of clients. So closing the gap through entrepreneurship is empowering, right? So and we work with clients at any level. So we work with established businesses, but we also work with people who want to, have an idea or want to start their business. And we walk them through the process by providing resources, by educating them, providing workshops, providing cohort-based trainings so that they have everything they need to really start their business. And if I might add here to what my colleague Renee said, I think if we inform our clients that this is an opportunity, they can make a career and start a business in the trades. I don't think that many of our clients know that this could be an opportunity, right? Sometimes they want to start a business and they don't have a clear idea. Sometimes they want to start a business out of necessity or to complement the household income or because they have a particular skill. But maybe might not realize that this is a really sound opportunity for employment and also for the road to entrepreneurship eventually. So I'm glad that I'm here and talking about this because probably this can kick off a partnership, like Chynna said, and how can we build the workforce, but how can we also help these people who are probably ready at the stage in their career in the trades where they're at that point where they can start a business. We also certify women-owned businesses, and that can be a way of closing the gap to get contracts with other corporations. And we also have a PTAC center, which is the training to work with the government to acquire government contracts. So we offer a variety of services that can help clients on this journey. So happy to provide my contact information later, but I think there's a lot of empowerment in entrepreneurship in this industry in particular.
Go ahead, Renee.
I just wanted to add to that, when I was growing up, to address some of the earlier statements, when I was growing up, I grew up near a school called CVS, which was short for Chicago Vocational Academy or Chicago Vocational something. And the whole purpose of the school was to train young people, high schoolers. It was a high school in a trade. And those types of schools, I'm sure there were several others around the city, and those schools have since kind of gone away. And so kids are not taught to learn a trade. They're basically told, go to college or don't do anything. And I think we need to bring back some more of those high schools that are focused on trades so that individuals, specifically women of color, can see and have those opportunities presented to them as an alternative to a 2-year or 4-year college degree. Am I aging myself by talking about that school?
No, because I went to Westinghouse Vocational, so I know exactly what you're speaking of.
It was dedicated solely to that. So on that note, I'll move on to our next question. And I will start with Chynna this time. And our next question, Chynna, for you is, how do you propose that we increase minority participation in STEM careers so that young women and young men, presumably, can be eligible for employment opportunities at institutions and organizations like MWRD? And, it goes back to what I just said about vocational training, but give us your thoughts.
No, I think you literally hit it on the head. It's that exposure earlier on. I think that, you got to think about it, and I think I'm gonna probably age myself, but when I was in grammar school and or high school, no one was talking about careers in STEM, or no one was talking about careers in the construction industry, really. And so there are really great programs that are raising awareness, and one of them in particular is Polished Pebbles. They always talk about, we've got to start early with that exposure. We've got to start with our girls earlier about talking to them about careers in the construction industry, how you can either be, on the union field, or you can be, an estimator, or these different opportunities. I think that it starts with the exposure, and it starts not just at the high school level, because I think that that's great that we can start with them those 4 years, but that is only 4 years. To be more intentional about it, why not start while they're in grammar school? Because kids are so advanced in this day and time. Why not start and tap into them while they're in grammar school, while you have their interest peaked, and then get into internships? Internships are key. So being a part of internships where you have that exposure outside of someone coming to your school and talking to you, but you having an exposure for a day in the life of, even having them shadow maybe some of the folks that work with you guys, or shadow some of the folks. What we do is we do site tours for individuals, coming on sites and seeing what it's like to work in this industry. But like I said, exposure is key, and having it early on is going to be how we tap into that.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Chynna. I'm going to move to you, Renee, next to get your insights, and then finally Blanca.
Well, I do echo what Chynna said, and my experience also, Kim, is that when I went to high school, and it was a vocational high school, and I will age myself because they steered us towards home economics, business, typing, or nursing program. We also had at that school auto mechanics, welding, and things in which you graduated, and you graduated with certificates, so you were certified coming out of high school to get a decent earning job. And we need to now make sure our young girls know that a career in science, technology, engineering, and math, or in construction will give you good benefits. Come out without owing a college loan,
always make
without having to pay back any student loans. And so they have to know at a very young age, these choices are here. And not only they're here, but you're capable of doing it. You're capable, you could get trained to do the work just like any other person in this male-dominated field. You can get trained to do the work and be successful at it. And we have a lot of examples. We have a lot of women and tradeswomen, and we go to the schools since they're opening now. We'll be going back to them to give them those information, but it's important that they know early on.
And I'm gonna toss it to you, Blanca, but I just wanted to comment on Chynna and Renee, particularly about starting or getting to the young people at a very early age. So exposing them to the math and science curriculum at an early age and making sure that they're comfortable with that, or conversely, exposing them to a trade early. I think the earlier we get to these kids, these young women, the more likely it is that they'll follow these careers. So Blanca, I see you're muted, but if you can give us your insights as well, that'd be great.
Yes, I mean, I don't think I have anything much more to add to what my colleague just said. I think starting early is key, right? Informing the opportunities that might be out there is key. Like I said, I think for women in particular, they need to know the options that they have. And once women know the options, believe me, I work with clients and women are powerful. They go and they do the work and they really put all their passions into what they do. And it's very inspiring to work with the clients that we work. So I wish they knew this. Some of them knew this from an earlier stage because again, the training is key. So again, I don't have any much more to add, but I couldn't agree more with what was just said.
Thank you. Commissioner Corral Sepúlveda?
Yeah, I want to note what Chynna said on no one was talking about STEM when I was a kid either. Now, I think we represent different generations on the panel. I'm a millennial myself, and no one was talking about STEM when I was a kid either. In fact, I just had a conversation with a student. She's an environmental science student at Loyola University, and they have a great new environmental science program. And she just wanted to talk to me about, like MWRD and how I became commissioner and what career opportunities there were. And we had a really great conversation about this. We had a conversation and I shared with her, you know what? I grew up as a little girl wanting to be a scientist. I would play lab in my best friend's backyard. I would ask my mom to buy me a microscope. I had the little slides made out of glass that we bought at a garage sale. In third grade, I wrote a report on tornadoes just for fun. Okay, I was a child that wanted to be a scientist, but at some point in my trajectory, it became untangible for two reasons that I see now in retrospect. One, my parents are immigrants and they didn't know how to guide me into these career opportunities. And I had trouble in 8th grade math, just 8th grade math. And I thought, oh my God, if I'm not good at math, I can't be a scientist. And so that moment just kind of detoured me. I later did become very good at math, but that kind of impacted my self-esteem. I really appreciate how we talk about STEM now. And if you are a member of the chat, please share your experiences with that. How has STEM been discussed with you in your own career development as a young girl, as a young person, and through high school and even through college, because we need to really address that. Career paths start early. So how can we build diverse career pipelines that connect young women to non-traditional careers in infrastructure? Chynna, I'm gonna kick that one off to you.
And before you kick it off to Chynna, I just want to add on that I think, in my generation, it really wasn't encouraged or emphasized for young women to go into science or math, or to have that as something that you're interested in. We were pushed more into the, well, say soft careers like marketing or product design or, graphic design, those types of things, not engineering and science. So again, just to emphasize everyone else's point, if we can put more emphasis on that for our young children, particularly girls, I think we could start laying the groundwork to have future engineers and future young women in careers in construction and sciences.
Agreed. And can you repeat the question, Commissioner?
Sure. So what can we do to build diverse career pipelines and connect, young women, but also women of all generations? I know you guys at Hire 360 work not just with high school students, but you work with women and individuals that are in their 20s and even their 30s.
Yeah, so I think that it starts with, and it's funny because a lot of our questions, I'm listening to like the answers and we're going back to the same thing. One, it's about the exposure part. So, if you know nothing about how to get into this industry, you're not going to even think about pursuing it. So I think that, what I'm currently doing in my current role through Climate Jobs as the equity director is I'm going on a listening tour across the state. Right. So I want to talk to everyone, whether they be in grammar school, high school, any person of age, but I want to talk to them about jobs in the clean energy sector and talk about how to get into those jobs, talk about how there are sustainable careers in that, and then talk about the money that is coming to Illinois to provide pipelines for those opportunities. So I think it's really just providing that exposure, talking about it, giving the inside scoop, as we call it, on, okay, so this is what a career in this looks like. This is what the steps that you need to take so that you can get into a sustainable career in this industry looks like. So that is going to help diversify the pipeline, because then it's not like we're leaving folks out of what the process is, but we're bringing them on board by providing them this information. So there can't be an excuse as to, hey, I didn't know what was going on. No, you had firsthand information on what was happening, and we provided the exposure for you.
Mm-hmm. Now, Blanca, one of the things that was mentioned earlier was stigma, right? And how we overcome it. That's a big challenge when we're talking about women in the trades, whether these are career options as working for a company or even starting your own company. I mentioned earlier that I'm the daughter of immigrants, but I'm also the mom of a junior in high school. And I myself am struggling, I have to admit, it's confession time, right? I myself am struggling with that stigma, how we break down the stigma of what it means to have a construction company, or what it means to have a waterworks career, what it means to be in manufacturing, what it means to be a carpenter, what it means to be an operating engineer. So how do you work with women to overcome that stigma of some of these career opportunities or business opportunities that have been seen as non-traditional for women?
Yes, so I mean, everything that has been said here is just so important. And I think, I'm thinking the two ways, right? So what has been said about early exposure is key. And it takes the pressure off, going into a trade school, takes the pressure off college for many kids, right? So that's the first start. But not only that as an option or as of, okay, if I'm not going to college, I'm going to a trades. No, I think working backwards and looking at all those successful companies that are out there and creating manufacturing jobs and creating infrastructure and building the cities and building communities. And then realizing how powerful and how profitable founding a company can be, right? So I think it's looking at the future of what can I build eventually, and also, working towards that. And again, it has been said, this cannot start overnight, right? But the more exposure and the more we talk about this and the deeper conversations that we have with all the efforts that are being done, will build this, again, exposure and opportunities for everyone. From my perspective, with the clients that we work with, even for many women wanting to start a business or coming, out of being moms, or, they're being kind of breaking a barrier in itself already, right? For many women. And once they
Blanca, you're breaking up a bit.
They do that and start something that they have. Again, we work through empowering women through entrepreneurship. And the more that we can talk about all these opportunities as other opportunities and not just starting a business because I need to or I want to, will be very relevant in the conversation.
Thank you so much, Blanca. Renee, you talked about benefits, student loans, what can young women, or as Blanca just said, women that, are coming back to the workforce for whatever reason, or they're looking for a change in career paths, what can women look towards in as far as benefits and salary opportunities in the trades?
Well, we always like when we're speaking with women who are coming back, changing careers or interested in careers, we always like to talk to them about the reality of life. The reality of life with a high school diploma. If you did not choose to go to college, that's fine, but choose something more than being an employee at McDonald's or Walmart. Because where can you see yourself in 5 years? In 5 years, building a career in the construction industry, you can see yourself making $50 or more or $40 or more, and not having any other responsibility as far as a student loan. You can see yourself having benefits that you can retire from comfortably. You can see yourself having health and medical benefits that can cover you and your family. So we speak of them about the reality of your choices. If you choose not to go to college, then choose something better for yourself. It's going to have you earn a decent living. It's not only going to support your family, but could change the trajectory of your future generation lives. You can choose to live in whatever community you live because you have the salary and the benefits from it to make that effort, to make that choice. So one of the things we have to do is inform them of those choices, though, and that's the most important part. Because the reality of having a high school diploma, if we go into Walmart or McDonald's, we see a lot of people, but they're also going home still scraping to make ends meet. And if we show them those ends can meet better with a career in construction, then we're doing half the battle of getting our recruitment in.
I think that really hits home. The fact that if you're looking to make a career change, or if you're looking to come back into the workforce, or you're a young person, you have the opportunity to either go into an entry-level position job and make minimum wage or maybe a living wage, or you have the opportunity and you know, you won't go into the darkness by yourself. We have organizations here, these 3 particular organizations that are there to be your guide, to be your light and guide you through the end of the tunnel and see you through to make jobs, to be a part of making a career, I should say, that you can earn up to $50 an hour. You can make benefits. You can have a pension. These are really important things to consider when you're making those career moves. You're not going to find those opportunities at entry-level jobs, and you're not going to find organizations that can do that. Kim, I know you are, I'm sorry, Commissioner Buclet, I know you have another question to ask. So we'll kick off with that.
Yes, thank you. So the question that has come to me is, what progress or what do you think still needs to be achieved in public policy and government programs in order for the goals of STEM improve and women being more represented in STEM programs? What public policy or government programs do you think could be enhanced or implemented?
You want me to start? Okay, well, for me, we have part of our organization, we have a National Center for Women's Equity, and we're always working on, because we know we need, first and foremost, we need strong affirmative action of goals for women and people in disadvantaged communities for enforcement and compliance. We need to establish enforcement of those goals and for apprenticeship participation through the unions. We need to educate states and major contractors about workforce development and best practices for a respectful workplace for women. We also know that we need transparency in the provisions. We need a community monitoring to be able to know what's happening in the community when those jobs are available. We're getting those jobs. We need the just a oversight of provisions that's going to monitor and make sure they're in compliance when we're getting these fundings for these communities, that people are not putting saying they're a woman or a person of color contractor and they're actually not. We need all those things to be regulated and the funding put into places of developing these apprenticeship programs.
So let me make sure I understand that. You're saying that a lot of programs already exist, but they're not monitored or measured. And so the guidelines might be there already in place, but they're not being followed.
Yeah, and the funding that's available, we've got to make sure those fundings are under some type of compliances and that there are measures for enforcement of those things. Because if you say we got $17 billion, if it's not spent right, and if it's not monitored that it's spent in the proper way, we're not assured that it's coming to the people that need it most.
Right.
Anybody else have any insight on that, or did Renee cover it?
She covered it, you know, again, and starting with STEM, starting early, the earliest the better, and incorporating STEM curriculum in schools, in after-school programs, it cannot be stressed enough. And even if people don't go eventually into STEM careers, right? This is valuable in any career. If people want to start a business, they need math skills. They need skills to really build a business, do their cash flow, create a budget. So these skills are needed for life. So yes, I think Renee covered it.
What's the best career advice you were ever given?
So go ahead.
No, I didn't know the question was for me. Sorry. Go ahead, Chynna.
No.
It's for anybody.
So I feel like the best career advice that I was given was about the benefits of networking. And networking is key in any career that you go to. You can be someone working on a construction site. It's the networking that is key as it concerns like helping you, one, build your career, but build those relationships so that you can learn more and folks notice who you are. I find myself thinking about just kind of when I came out of graduate school, and I was just like the networking queen. I haven't done so much networking as of lately, but just kind of coming out of grad school and like looking for a job and pounding the pavement, networking was key. And through those relationships, I gained a lot of insight from folks that I made become my mentor, from folks that I said, okay, I know you don't know me, but you're going to take me under your wing and you're going to teach me what I need to know, what it means to how I work in the workplace, or what is this industry like, and it is because of those relationships through networking that I am in the space that I am in today, and currently in the position that I am because of the networking that I did.
Yeah, that's insightful. I think it actually connects to the question that I have. We're going to go to Q&A from the audience now. This is from April. Are there any opportunities for women who've been out of the game? It's never too late to start a career, but are there any programs, scholarships, or workshops we can direct them to? I know so all of you will have a response to that because you do work with women of all ages. But in addition to learning a trade and then opening yourself to the possibility of building your own business, the success that you can have with either one of those two career opportunities will be maximized, as Chynna said, through networking, by being able to connect with others that have already been in the space and they're happy to connect and share their knowledge, and to network, because believe it or not, it is a small network of women, but just individuals in the STEM and infrastructure space. I recently spoke to a woman engineer. She owns her own business, and I'm like, hey, are you excited about all this federal funding coming? And she was like, yeah, but I'm really scared. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough architects. We don't have enough engineers. We don't have enough people in the trades. That is compounded by the fact that we have also a wave of retirements that are going to be coming our way. We've been starting to look at those trends at MWRD of retirements that are imminent. They're happening within the next decade, that people are retiring, and there's going to be a big void. So for women that at a different stage in their life, perhaps not initiating in their high school years or in their 20s, what advice do you have? And I'm going to start off with Renee.
I don't know, a lot of times physical conditioning can be a barrier. Okay. You can't change that. In construction, there are things that you have to do that require you to be physical. If no matter how old you are, if you can physically do things and you believe in yourself enough, there are jobs that you can have, but you got to realize that there is a lot of physical work in being in trades. But there are other avenues, like we have a welding class that may not be as physical as, per se, being a carpenter or being an electrician. So you have to look at what your capabilities are, especially if you're coming back into changing your career. Mm-hmm. I was 27 when I changed my career. Well, no, really, I was 32. But when I first got the experience of learning about being an electrician, I had already had my college degree. But working alongside someone in volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, and that person seeing what they made as opposed to what I was making with a college degree, I was interested in construction. And 2 years later, I learned about a pre-apprentice program that allowed me to come in, and I became part of that and learned more about the trades and became an electrician. So it's how you are physically that can direct your interest in a career in construction if you're older. But I won't give up. No, I say no one can do it at any age, because we have had women coming through here in their 50s who's been successful in a construction career. And we physically put them in shape. We do a conditioning here so that when they're done with our program, they're able to meet standards out there in the field.
Very
I
honest.
hope I answered the question.
You did. I think it was very earnest, and it's important to have those considerations, but that to also think like, hey, just because we're a little older doesn't mean we can't get fit. So
Right.
Chynna, on that, any insight?
I think Renee covered it all. It's all about what you have the capacity to do, but you have to really want to do it. And there is, I think, through all of our respective organizations, like going into this industry, there's a wide variety of opportunities. It's just a matter of finding out what it is that you want to do, and working with our respective organizations to assist you in taking that next step.
Very good.
I see one other question here that maybe we can tackle before we start to wrap up. Anna, it says several people have mentioned that historically women of color have been steered into careers that are not STEM based, I assume. And do you think that this has been reflected in the huge wage gap? The fact that, early on, we were not steered into these different careers, and now late into our careers, there's such a huge wage difference. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Well, I mean, yes, and I mean that I'm not a panelist, sorry, but if I could share. Yes and no. Certainly, there are challenges to be said for being steered into careers that pay a certain wage. Yes, but when you're looking at the statistics of wage gaps, you're often looking at comparable job opportunities and comparable roles that women and men have. So it's, you're comparing an apple to an apple in these statistics. So it's certainly a challenge that women are pushed towards certain fields, and there's certainly a lot to be said for having some fields have a minimized wage because they're women-led fields. There's some of that too. But when we're looking at these gaps, you're often looking at specifically data that is comparing the wages of equal jobs. So, when you fight for equal pay for equal jobs, that's what we mean. Like, I'm getting paid this much, this dude is getting paid this much, we're doing the same stuff.
Right, whether it's a server at a restaurant or whether it's an engineer, the wage gap is still the same.
I think too, any field that's dominated by women, we're not getting paid properly. And like was mentioned, that when we're in the same field and getting paid less, that's even more obvious. But one thing about a career in the trades and the construction, you're going to get paid the same as any other person on the job, because the union is going to make sure everybody gets equal wages.
Right.
Agreed.
Well, Commissioner, do you think we want to wrap up or maybe do another question? What do you think? We're at 12.
I mean, I want to speak to Tracy's. Tracy has mentioned some really cool stuff that she's addressed, being part of certain classes, and the challenges that she's faced. So if anyone else wants to share their journey in the chat, please do. I think it's really insightful to learn from one another and what we've journeyed. As I shared with you guys earlier, I just spoke to someone in college right now about my experience as a millennial, and we were really able to connect through that. And going through how, even though I didn't end up with a science degree, I somehow in all my career journeys still strived to find opportunities to push forward my passion for the sciences, and particularly for the environment. And I made those a part of my roles, even if they really had nothing to do with it. Kind of ended up pushing me here as MWRD commissioner, and in believing what I work for. So please continue to share your perspectives on the chat. And I think I don't think we have any other questions. I'm going to take a look at the chat. So we'll go to closing remarks.
That sounds awesome. I think that's me, right?
Yep.
Well, in closing, I'd like to say, let's take a moment to celebrate. Let's celebrate this panel. You all have been amazing. Let's celebrate Women's History Month. Let's celebrate women in trades. Let's celebrate women in STEM. And let's celebrate that today happens to be World Water Day. As everyone knows on this panel, Commissioner Corral Sepúlveda and I are elected commissioners with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation Board, which plays a very important role in protecting our fresh water supply, which happens to be Lake Michigan. World Water Day was put in place to bring attention to the fact that water is one of our most precious resources. And we need to ensure that we have clean water and a clean source of water for everyone. It's a chance to remind ourselves that billions of people today live their lives without access to safe drinking water. So ensuring that clean water sources for all the world's inhabitants is the goal of World Water Day. So I'd like to take a moment to celebrate World Water Day, Women's History Month, this panel, Women in STEM, Women in Trades. And finally, I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for attending. I'd like to thank our esteemed panelists. You all have been absolutely amazing. And thank you for agreeing to serve on this panel. Thank you to my colleague to helping with my staff and your staff putting all this together. It's my hope that we can have this discussion again next year during Women's History Month, hopefully in person so we can see each other. And I just want to take a moment again to thank everyone for attending, thank all the panelists, and thank all of the attendees. Is there anything you want to add, Commissioner Corral Sepúlveda?
No, thank you all so much for sharing the last hour with us. It's incredibly important that we are able to push forward and grow from this recession period that we've had during the pandemic and be able to build back better. And build back better doesn't just mean to grow economically or improve our infrastructure, but also to really be able to address some of these historic inequities that exist for women and that particularly impact women of color the most. This is a great opportunity. I hope you've learned, if not for yourself, to share with your organizations, to share with friends, family, students, neighbors, people in your lives about how they can engage in opportunity in the trades, build a career from it, and build potentially a business from it as well. I shared in the chat our link for career opportunities with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. We have a plethora of opportunities in waterworks. The other thing that I'd like to note is we talked a lot about the green economy and how important it will be to engage that. That is another way that we have to move forward and build an economy that creates sustainability as we continue to fight climate change. So thank you all so much for your time. And if I can just ask those that are still on to put your camera on, and we could take a picture, and I can ask Yusuf or Julie to take a screenshot with all of our beautiful smiling faces, because even though we are not together in person, we are together apart even still. So I'm going to give a 5-second timeline to get people to turn on their screens so that we can take a picture, share your lovely faces. Oh, I see Beverly Sanders. She's our HR